Hi, I'm Siobhan Fletcher, one of the journalists at Manx Radio, and welcome to the latest edition of our newscast. We all have a stake in our health and social care on the island. That's the message from the Health Minister, who says this is the right time to review the working arrangements between her department and Manx Care. Later this month, Claire Christian will ask Tynwald to support her motion to form a committee of 5 members to take evidence and review the governance framework, the division of responsibilities and the statutory relationship between the DHSC and the healthcare body. It comes 4 years after Manx Care came into operation and 4 months into her term as Minister. I sat down with Ms Christian to find out why she's decided now is the time to take a look at the relationship.
Claire Christian, the Minister of Health and Social Care.
Okay, perfect. So talking then about this formation of a committee, I suppose the question first of all is why?
Thank you, Siobhan. It's good practice basically. We all have a stake in our healthcare and social care on the island. Since I've been in place in the last 4 months, I've obviously been myself personally sort of, learning and taking in what's the current climate, let's just say that, with Manx Care and the DHSC. And, we've really been taking stock of that position and assessing what's working well and what perhaps needs identifying as improvements. And the point of appointing a committee is really, we're stakeholders in that. We as the DHSC, I feel like it needs to be more of a united collaboration with Tynwald members to look at a review of the Manx Care and the DHSC, and that's why forming a committee of political members to come and talk to us as a stakeholder and Manx Care and other stakeholders on, as I said, what works well, what needs improvement. But just to give sort of reassurance, obviously the DHSC will continue to be responsible for strategy, for planning and policy and regulation, and then obviously to give other people reassurance, the public, that everything will be business as usual. This review it's the right timing. It's exactly 4 years today that Manx Care was concepted, and so it's a really perfect time. Let's look at it. Let's see what's working. I know the public want to see some change, and certainly political members also want to see that change. So we're really taking that now and putting this committee forward. We're going to hopefully the committee will work at pace to come forward with suggestions. But what I would say is I'm not just going to sit on my laurels while this is happening. I'm already, we've also announced today a new political team, and that works in tandem with this as well. So we're going to be working up over the next week what their political responsibilities are. We'll be making those announcements. But I want to signal now that, and I've already spoken to Manx Care about this, that we want them to have an arm. Arm's length with the Manx Care in different areas for those political representatives, so that we can work over the next 6 months, making perhaps changes that might be good practice, that might be taken forward by the committee or might not. But we're going to work now to basically start that collaboration and improve that relationship between Manx Care and the political accountability.
And I mean, you mentioned there about strengthening political representation and accountability. That's something that's been called for by the Isle of Man Medical Association, certainly in recent conversations as well. So are we seeing kind of more of an alignment here between what doctors and professionals are calling for, as well as what political members are calling for as well?
It's a really good question, and I certainly, since I've started, I've had those conversations with the Isle of Man Medical Society and colleagues, and I've really had that open door policy. So absolutely, feedback such as that is really feeding into this, and that's really important. Isle of Man Medical Society will be part of those stakeholders that I hope that the committee would also engage with, because they are exceptionally important. They're our colleagues, and they have a great view of how they would like to see things, and not everything might be taken on board. Some things might Obviously, everybody has different opinions, but that's why this committee is really important, to collate all of those opinions and come up with what's best for the Isle of Man.
I think since the formulation of Manx Care, certainly there's always been a bit of confusion in terms of what falls under what remit. What's the Department of Health, what's Manx Care? Are you hoping that maybe this committee, in bringing forward a report and that sort of thing, will make that division clearer, maybe, even just for the public?
Yeah, that they need to review who does what, and then look at, for me, if there's duplication, and efficiencies can be made in terms of a duplication. So that's also one of the key aspects. You're absolutely right. Even as a politician, it can be somewhat confusing. What does DHSC do? What does Manx Care do? I mean, Manx Care deliver the services that the public and the Isle of Man are expecting and used to. And DHSC, as I said, they really are the strategy, the planning, and the policy, and the regulation and inspections. So that's how it sits right now. But you'll know I'm politically responsible and answering questions currently in either the House of Keys or Tynwald. And at the moment, apart from the board-to-board meetings, the structure, the way that it's set up at the moment, or has been in the past, it's very much their arm's length. It's not, this is their decisions, and they are their decisions, but we need to have more connection between a sort of a political conversation for them to understand what really do the Manx public want. We all work for the Manx public. Even Manx Care work for the Manx public, and that's what's really important. Putting people. That's my mantra. Certainly, I'm saying at every meeting. That the patients and people come first. We've got to drive this through. What do they want? What do they need? What are they expecting?
When we put this story up today, actually, when it broke, one comment we got a lot on Facebook straight away is that thing from the public saying another committee. But then equally, you do have the public want the health department and Manx Care to be accountable. They want to know what's working, what's not. So what's the line here in terms of, because a lot of people are just calling straight away for just scrap Manx Care, start again. What are you hoping will come out of this committee that you can take forward, maybe the public might be receptive to, I suppose? Yeah,
that's why I talked a little bit about working at pace. The task that we've set the committee in terms of the timing and the responsibility and what they're supposed to be specifically looking at is what the public want to have change. They want accountability, and that's not something I think as an individual, as the DHSE minister, should dictate. It has to be a collective responsibility in terms of our political house, Tynwald and the House of Keys, and listening to the public and listening to what they're saying. So yes, I totally get it. Another review, but this is the right time. It's 4 years. I'm new in post. I can see myself and have seen myself from the outside. What those things that I need to address, but there are other people's opinions, like the Isle of Man Medical Society, for example, you've just mentioned, Manx Care, etc. Their information needs to be taken into consideration as well.
And you've mentioned as well that the final report due in December, hopefully, if Tim will vote in favour of the motion in April. So why December? Are you wanting it firmly, that report there, before the next administration? Would you then want to put things in place going forward? What's the timeline looking like?
That'll be up to the committee in terms of what they may. I don't want to preempt what they might do. I certainly don't want to kind of do that either before the debate either. But they will have many options to hand for them. The report is the first part, and it's their findings, what they find in that report. Then that's important. Yes, it is before the general election. It's well in advance of that. It's 9 months in advance. But I think there's a lot of work that's already been done already. There's been governance reviews done by Manx Care themselves. The department have done some reviews, and we'll look at if this motion does go forward and the committee does get created, we'll hand that work over. So they're not starting from scratch. There's a great deal of work that's been done there already.
What we also now know is that the government's begun recruitment for an interim chief officer. Obviously, the current chief officer is retiring as planned this summer.
Yeah, Paul arrived at a significant time, a change for health and social care on the island, and he really has been extremely dedicated in his wealth of experience, and he's been a really valuable asset. He always, as we mentioned, he always intended to retire this summer, and I wish him well, of course, but he will continue to support myself and colleagues and the council of ministers about the future development of the island health and social care system.
But that recruitment is interim, so I suppose first of all, why interim? Why are we not recruiting for a full-time chief officer going forward?
Yeah, the recruitment for an interim leader will ensure the continued smooth operation of the department while allowing for any changes that may arise from a Tynwald review of the working arrangements between DHSC and Manx Care, and that to be reflected in the role of the future permanent DHSC officer.
So essentially just that fail-safe of, we don't know what that Tynwald committee, if it's formed, will come up with, so let's just make this interim till we see, basically.
Exactly, yes.
And then the third announcement today is that 3 new political members have been appointed to the department. So that's Minister Without Portfolio Tim Crookall, Stu Peters, MHK, Diane Kelsey, MLC, and they're joining Peter Reid, who was appointed in March. What are you hoping they're going to bring to the table within the department?
Yeah, they hopefully, I say hopefully, they've all got very individual skills, and I'm really going to play to their skill sets, and that's what I think is important to, as a department, to really sort of be a team in that respect. The department is huge, as you know, and it does have quite a wide responsibility. But I'm really looking forward to working with these members, and over, as I mentioned before, over the next week or two, we'll be working up their responsibilities and accountability.
And so I suppose, how does this work then? Do you have any say in who's chosen to join the department?
Yes, so obviously when I first stepped in, there was a political team already. I didn't think it was the right decision right at that moment because I was new. They were a new political team, and they were already, Minister Paul Wilson and Minister Ashford were already in place, and also Ms. Tanya August Phillips as well. And to keep the continuity of what we were trying to achieve at the time, it was important to maintain them. And it obviously, that was not going to be something, having 2 ministers in the department would be quite so sustainable in the long run, because they obviously have their own departments to manage. So I was obviously starting to talk to other members who would be interested in coming into the DHSC. But ultimately, for the public to understand, it's the members of departments are Council of Ministers appointments, so it has to have an agreement for that. But yes, of course, conversations were had with myself, with the Chief Minister, with other council ministers to say, who do you think would be a good fit for the DHSC?
And obviously the department, I mean, like many other departments, but the department's had a lot of movement in this administration. Are you happy that you've got the team that will see you through till the election then? I'm really
excited about this because, as I said, they've all got specific skill sets. And I think you'll see over the next coming weeks how we're going to utilise those skill sets and really be a very strong department. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Maybe I'm jumping forward to a spoiler here, but one of the interesting ones that jumped out to me is Minister Without Portfolio Tim Crookall coming in, because obviously he's kind of, the government is saying he's looking for efficiencies in departments. Is that, by putting him in there, is that hoping that he can find efficiencies within health then?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Just not giving me any more than that. Okay, fair enough.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.